I would like to think that for anybody who watches my videos regularly, it is readily apparent that I place a tremendous amount of value on being absolutely rigorous when it comes to doing my research. I take a lot of pride in being thorough. It's why I 100% every single game I play, and it's also why, as soon as I found out that the game I'm going to be covering today takes heavy inspiration from the Black Death, I went out and got myself a real, live sample of the bubonic plague, which we're going to be taking a look at together. Of course, hindsight is 20/20. The neighborhood's been on lockdown for over a week, and 3 of my fingers are now various shades of green. Yeah, looking back, I don't know what exactly I expected to happen. Sometimes in life, you have to be willing to take risks, and of course, they're not always going to pay off. Rest assured, though, I won't have anyone questioning my dedication to the craft, and I'm not going to let a measly little sickness get in the way of giving you my official take on A Plague Tale: Innocence. Okay, so before we get started, a pretty big part of this game's appeal is its story, which I am going to be talking about quite a bit. As usual, I'll be sure to avoid any major spoilers, but I will be discussing the plot, so keep that in mind if you want to go in completely blind. Made up your mind? Alright. Our story begins in 14th century France, a country devastated by famine, the 100 Years' War with England, and by a deadly illness that seems to be tearing its way through farms and villages, spread in the night by mysterious bites. We follow Amicia de Rune, the teenage daughter of a noble French lord who lives a mostly idyllic life in the countryside with her family. Things seem well until one day, after an incident in the woods that I'm not yet mentally in a place to talk about, your family home is raided by a religious militia group known as the Inquisition. They're looking for your brother Hugo, a sickly boy who has spent the majority of his 6 years shut inside. The Inquisition is absolutely ruthless, slaughtering the entire estate, including both your parents, and leaving you to narrowly escape with your brother and your life. From there, your objective is pretty straightforward. Survive. Throughout the game, you'll be tasked with uncovering the mysteries of the centuries-old curse running through Hugo's blood, all the while being hunted by the Inquisition and contending with the ever-present scourge of the Bite. You see, the world of PTI is in the process of being completely overrun by unstoppable swarms of massive black rats. The disease-carrying carnivores travel by the thousands, burrowing underground and emerging from their nests of filth and human remains at night or in the comfort of dark buildings to tear through anything in their path. These things are bloodthirsty, capable of turning a living, breathing person into a ribcage and a couple of skull bones in a matter of seconds. They're also pretty much everywhere, making them a near constant threat for our heroes. One of the biggest draws of A Plague Tale: Innocence is undoubtedly its story. I'll admit, I'm pretty quick to get annoyed by too much plot getting in the way of my precious gameplay, but I have absolutely nothing negative to say about the way it's handled in PTI. This game does a great job of grabbing your interest from the first chapter and building up your level of investment in the characters, all of whom, in my opinion, are extremely well written. The characters in this game feel like actual people, particularly Amicia, who we spend the majority of our time following. Her reactions to the multitude of legitimately distressing situations she finds herself in feel shockingly genuine, probably thanks in large part to some exceptional voice performances. PTI is capable of delivering some really heavy moments in the best way possible and kept me hooked until the very last chapter. There's also no way I could talk about this game without covering the visuals, which play a vital role in establishing and maintaining this game's phenomenal atmosphere. It's no secret that this title features a lot of dark, gory environments, all of which feel very authentic and some of which are disturbingly realistic. What really stood out to me though is just how often this game chooses not to indulge in its plethora of ghastly impulses, instead frequently opting to deliver a variety of absolutely stunning natural surroundings. PTI wields grotesqueries with masterful precision, expertly contrasting its fields of dead bodies and puddles of blood with a near matching number of genuinely beautiful scenes. Not only is this a consistent treat for the player, it keeps them from becoming desensitized to the more unpleasant parts of this world, meaning that when they want to, they can really hit you hard. Great, I'm sure you're thinking, but how does it play? Well, for starters, PTI is a stealth game first and foremost. Making your way across the French countryside, you'll be expected to slink and skulk your way through towns and outposts, doing everything in your power to avoid detection by Inquisition soldiers. For the most part, you can accomplish this in a pretty straightforward manner. You'll be crouching your way through tall grass, Horizon Zero Dawn style, and using set pieces like tables or low walls to keep yourself from being spotted. Using these vantage points, you can observe enemy behavior and try to spot an opening to slip through. From there, if no such opening exists, you'll have to try and make one, either by creating a distraction, or by using your trusty slingshot. Your slingshot is really the only weapon you'll have access to on your journey, but it can be surprisingly effective, making quick work of an unaware guard if you know how to use it correctly. Unlike a lot of games with stealth elements though, violence is not always viable. For the most part, you kill enemies more as a puzzle solving tool than as part of an actual combat sequence. Sure, you can fight your way out of a tough spot occasionally, but the vast majority of the time, if you find yourself spotted by more than a couple of soldiers, you're going to die. In my opinion, this is a positive. Keeping your fighting prowess relatively low helps keep your character grounded, and raises the stakes to a slightly more realistic place by forcing you to engage with the world at your character's level, delivering a more immersive experience. As I alluded to before, puzzle solving is also a pretty big part of the core gameplay loop, which is where the aforementioned rats come into the picture. A lot of the areas you'll need to traverse are absolutely infested with the things, leaving you to try and figure out how to cross safely. Their primary weakness is light. They avoid it at all costs, which leads to some pretty clever sequences trying to deduce the best way to brighten an area or safely transport a torch or burning piece of hay to where it needs to go. Alternatively, if no light source is available, the disease-ridden horde is also hugely attracted to anything that has meat on it, living or dead, which is of course why they're so dangerous to you in the first place, but it's also a tendency you can occasionally use to your advantage. All of these various different gameplay elements come together in what I think is a very satisfying way. The mechanics I've laid out so far managed to create really quite a surprising number of unique and interesting solutions and outcomes from what is, realistically, a pretty limited number of scenarios. Say your path is being blocked by a swarm of rodents, and the gate at the other side is being patrolled by a heavily armored soldier. You may not have any light source at your disposal to clear out the rats, and you may not be able to take down the guard on your own thanks to his helmet, but by knocking out his lantern, you can kill two metaphorical birds with one literal stone, distracting the rats and causing them to make quick work of the guard, leaving you free to progress. In an attempt to manage the progression of Hugo's illness, Amicia will eventually find herself caught up in the world of alchemy. Throughout the game, you'll gain access to a variety of different recipes that will allow you to craft a broad range of different substances that can assist you in your journey. These craftables come in handy for everything from pest control to combat, allowing you to ignite extinguished light sources, draw rats away from an area with a strong odor, snuff out flames to flood an area in rodents, melt the metal of a soldier's armor, forcing them to remove their helmet, and perform a handful of other useful tricks that are sure to come in handy many times during your playthrough. I really love the assortment of items in this game. The pacing of unlocking new recipes is perfect for the runtime, which keeps things feeling fresh, and there's enough variety that each craftable feels totally distinct with its own array of strategic uses. At the same time though, the lineup never feels overwhelming. Your abilities feel like a natural extension of your character, which can lead to all sorts of creative approaches to problem solving when it's time to complete puzzles. My only real complaint is that once you get past the initial area you unlock a new item in, it can be kind of unclear sometimes when you're actually expected to use them. Like there ended up being quite a few situations where I really wasn't sure if it was legitimately necessary for me to use a certain item, or if I was just cheesing the puzzle and wasting resources. Honestly, I feel like A Plague Tale: Innocence really excels most when it sticks to one of its extremes. There are only a total of like 3 pure combat encounters in the entire game, one of which is actually the final boss, but they're all really good. PTI is capable of producing some seriously competent fighting sequences when it wants to, so while I'm totally fine with them not being a large focus, I would have been absolutely down to see at least a couple more. On the other side of the coin, one of my favorite chapters in the game is the one where you play as Hugo. No weapons, no items, minimal puzzle solving, it's an entire level of just pure stealth, which was surprisingly enjoyable. Although to be fair, it does snake its way up the ratings just a little bit thanks to the end sequence where you get to play Hugo the Last Ratbender. To be clear, I definitely don't want to come off as bashing the core gameplay, because like 95% of it is really well designed and a ton of fun to play. There are just a few sections every now and then that I think push the game's mechanics just a little bit too far off script, if you know what I mean. Things can occasionally get a bit too fast-paced or too complicated, and when they do, you can end up with situations where, for instance, your slingshot misses its target despite being locked on with the yellow crosshair. While not at all common, this can lead to some undeserved deaths, which are of course pretty frustrating. Thankfully, scenarios like this are few and far between, and generally speaking, the difficulty feels really well balanced. PTI is a very linear game, with the main story taking you through a total of 17 chapters before the final credits roll, and it's time for completionists like myself to start cleaning up achievements. The main task you'll need to worry about is trying to fully upgrade all of your equipment, and take it from me, you want to try to do this during your initial playthrough. You need to focus on upgrading your inventory capacity and tool belt early on in the game, because if you don't, you won't have enough opportunities to upgrade later on. You'll end up having to replay stages to grind out materials, a process that's pretty tedious and kind of stressful in my opinion. Once you've finished upgrading, it's time to work on filling out your codex, a large collection of various gifts, trinkets, and knickknacks you can find scattered across each chapter. You'll need to keep a keen eye out if you want to spot all 50, but personally, I had a lot of fun hunting everything down. This game does an excellent job helping you keep track of what you're still missing, and the easy to navigate chapter select system makes it super easy to jump in exactly where you need to be to start looking. Finally, there ended up being a lot more miscellaneous trophies than I initially expected. You'll want to familiarize yourself with these so you can try to grab them while you're doing everything else. Most of them are really quick and easy, having you play hide and seek with Hugo or forcing you to spare a couple of NPCs. A couple are actually pretty challenging though, like trying to sneak your way into Lord Nicholas's chamber before he locks you out. It's a satisfying completion, with a great balance of playstyles that extend game time and make you feel like you earned that platinum trophy. A Plague Tale: Innocence did not disappoint me, sucking me completely in and leaving me ready for more when it was over. Throughout my nearly 22 hours of playtime, I was captivated by a beautifully executed, at times soul-crushing story, treated to gorgeous visuals that know just when to pull out all the stops, and I had an amazing time completing a really solid title. I wholeheartedly recommend anybody that's interested, check out PTI. It's available on pretty much every platform, and it goes on sale fairly frequently for a very reasonable price. This is another one I'm proud to have on my list of 100% completed titles. In retrospect, realistically, I think just playing the game probably would have more or less covered my bases, but I'm pretty content with where we ended up. If you are too, why not do me a huge favor and drop a like on this video so I'll know you enjoyed it. And hey, while you're down there, consider leaving a comment as well, letting me know what you think. I read all of them, and I love hearing from you. It's a great way to pass the time stuck inside. Also, if you find yourself inclined, it would be awesome if you could check out any of my social media. It'll be linked down in the description below as always, along with any of the music that I used in this video. And I think that's pretty much all I have to say. Thanks as always for watching. I'm gonna go lay out some mouse traps.